Yeah, so I think we can welcome to this. I don't know how to do this. I don't attend too many Friday study circles. I apologize for that. But I do know one thing, that it's Chitra ji who starts the circle 99 time. So, yeah, so Chitra ji, please continuing with the tradition. Let's start with the Friday study
No,
circle.
others are there, or they can also start.
So, why don't we do that? And then others
Yeah,
get warmed up
no
by
problem.
the time. Yeah.
Today I have something about flowers actually.
Hmm.
Mother used to give lot of importance to flowers, no? Actually. So I brought something about flowers. Flowers are mediums of transmission. When I give flowers from mother, it is an answer to the aspiration coming from the very depths of your being. It is a need or an aspiration. It depends upon the person. It may fill a void or else give you the impetus to progress. Or it may help you find the inner harmony in order to establish peace. Do you understand? Be like a flower. One must try to become like a flower, open, frank, equal, generous, and kind. A flower is open to all that surrounds it: nature, light, the rays of the sun, the wind, etc. It exerts a spontaneous influence on all that is around it. It radiates a joy and a beauty. It is frank. It hides nothing of its beauty and lets it flow frankly out of itself. What is within, what is in its depths, it lets it come out so that everyone can see it. Then it is equal. It has no preference. Everyone can enjoy its beauty and its perfume without rivalry. It is equal and the same for everybody. There is no difference or anything whatsoever. Shall I continue, or we can go for some discussion actually?
Uh,
You
I
can find out, I think, in incarnate word also if you type about that. But I have a book.
Yeah, no,
No,
but
it is.
just to give like this, Shilpi and Ritu also joining us for the first time in the circle today, and I
Mhm.
personally also do not like, I know her love for flowers and how she has written, so much about flowers. But why just flowers? Like what you were reading, that's true for say trees and leaves and lot of other things. But what was
Yeah,
specific about flowers that mother took so much? uh,
yeah,
Talked about. If you could give us a little bit of that.
yeah. Because flowers, I think easily it will, I mean, transmit its, yeah, energy or actually for that also, mother
Mother
is
used
giving
to say
answer.
that
Yeah,
flowers are
there
the
is
most
answer for that.
receptive. They are the most receptive,
Yeah,
and in keeping and in transmission of energy, both mother used to say that flowers being the most receptive, I feel that, and the purest, I feel that I can infuse that energy in them and get it also out of them. That was the reason she chose flowers above, not above really, but more than trees and leaves. Though she had many gardens in the ashram which still exist, which are full of orchards and trees and totally lush green, where they bear fruits and supply the ashram. But she chose flowers because of this.
And when we say receptive, as in if mother wants to give it some energy, or if the universe is giving it some energy, it's able to receive it and
Yes,
then make it flow through it.
yes,
Basically, it is like a perfect instrument of the divine, right? Like it's letting the divinity flow through it.
right.
Okay.
It receives from the universe and it gives equally generously also.
Yeah, because when Chitra ji was reading, it said open, frank, equal, generous, and kind. I think that's the qualities you mentioned.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for that also, the answer is there from mother also, and the plane of matter, they are the most open to my influence. Yeah, I can transmit a state of consciousness more easily to a flower than to a man. It is, she said, yeah, it is very receptive, though it does not know how to formulate its experience to itself because it lacks a mind. But the pure psychic consciousness is instinctive to it. When, therefore, you offer flowers to me, their condition is almost always an index to yours. What you feel and offer to mother, it will speak to mother. Yeah. Because again, she's telling there are persons who never succeed in bringing a fresh flower to me. Even if the flower is fresh, it becomes limp in their hands. Others, however, always bring fresh flowers and even revitalize drooping ones. Yeah, revitalize drooping ones. If your aspiration is strong, your flower offerings will be fresh. And if you are receptive, you will also be very easily able to absorb the message I put in the flowers I give you. When I give them, I give you states of consciousness. The flowers are the mediums, and it all depends on our receptivity, whether they are effective or not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I didn't
Yeah.
know that at all. Yeah.
Because I came to mother only through flowers, actually. I'm very
I think you had
much.
mentioned that once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you want to tell us that again if you would want?
Yeah, but I don't know. I used to put lot of flowers for my Devi worship that time, actually, Lalita Sahasranam, Saundari Lagri and all. And my one of my cousins, she told about mother to me. I was totally attracted because of those flowers, and I started keeping flowers on the altar with their mother's picture. And one day I got a flower, a hibiscus, actually. So I asked everyone who brought that flower at home. No, everyone said no, we don't know. I don't know how that flower came. So it was a mysterious thing for me. So I kept it for a long years. Then I missed that flower, but it was there after, even after drying it, I kept it actually. So through that, my contact became very strong after that, actually, through flowers. Yeah.
I've
I
So,
can
observed
share
one
that.
in day-to-day life, when I used to offer flowers to the mother, I used to put in buds of lilies to her, and I used to keep one on the dining table below and one upstairs in my room in front of mother's photograph, and like not an altar but just collection of her snaps and her feet. The ones down would droop in about 5 days on the dining table, but the ones which would be there in front of mother used to stay for more than 3 weeks. But 3 weeks was a must. So it used to, um, I used to get puzzled as to how they are like that. And then when I made the next trip to the ashram, I went and asked a senior sadhak that what is it? And at that time, she told me that it is the receptivity that you are seeing in the flower. But I have witnessed it that the flower would not droop. Fresh, absolutely. 3 weeks is a long time. So it's a true thing.
so Jyotna ji, would you want to share something else now, like right now, since you were already talking?
I have read something, but that was quite heavy. It will be there in Incarnate Word if you search it, Taru.
Yeah, I will do that. What should I
Uh,
search for?
no, I'm reading it from Conversations on Yoga from the Mother. When I read the first sentence, I think you go when you search it will come.
Okay, I'll do that.
You surrender and merge in it, and your surrender enlarges and glorifies you. Or you revolt and all your possibilities are destroyed, and your powers ebb away and are drawn from you into that which you oppose. Is it there?
Yeah, it's there. One second. Can you see it?
Yes, yes, yes. There are many wrong ideas current about surrender. Most people seem to look upon surrender as an abdication of the personality. You give it up. But that is a grievous error. For the individual is meant to manifest one aspect of the divine consciousness, and the expression of its characteristic nature is what creates his personality. Then, by taking the right attitude towards the divine, this personality is purified of all the influences of the lower nature, which diminish and distort it, and it becomes more strongly personal, more itself, and more complete. It undergoes a heightening and glorification, an aggrandizement of capacity, a realization of the maximum of its possibilities, the human being. And after, in a few lines, a person, he must throw from him whatever belongs to the ignorant lower movements of the ordinary man and his blind, limping, ordinary life. And first of all, he must give up his desires, for desire is the most obscure and the most obscuring movement of the lower nature. Desires are motions of weakness and ignorance, and they keep you chained to your weakness and to your ignorance. Desires are waves of the vast sea of the obscure lower nature, and they pass from one person to another. Men do not generate a desire in themselves, but are invaded by these waves, and whoever is open and without defense is caught in them and tossed about, which was a revelation to me, because I didn't know that. I thought we manufacture our own desires, but apparently that's not true. There's another line in that: they come out of the sea. They do not belong to the true character or the true nature. They are no intrinsic or inseparable part of yourself, but they come out of the sea of surrounding obscurity in, in which move the forces of lower nature. These desires, these passions have no personality. They manifest in the same way in everyone. And
In actually, you have to scroll.
Yeah, Chitraji, the beginning part was the same, but after that it changed. I don't.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so
okay,
it's a different one. I tried to scroll down, but again, it's not the same.
okay, no problem. Yeah, yeah.
and yet each goes on believing that these movements are part of himself and a precious product of his own free personality. The great difference between spirituality and morality, two things that are constantly confused with each other. Means then she shifts to morality, which again is a manufacture of the human mind, where we control ourselves. That's another few lines, but very interesting.
Would you like?
Would you like me to read it?
Yeah, yeah. Why not?
Okay. The spiritual life, the life of yoga, has for its object to grow into divine consciousness, and for its result to purify, intensify, glorify, and perfect what is in you. It makes you a power for manifesting of the divine. Morality, on the other hand, proceeds by a mental construction and with a few ideas of what is good and what is not, sets up an ideal type into which all must force themselves. All are to be molded according to its single ideal pattern. Everybody is to be made uniformly and faultlessly the same. It is because morality is of this rigid, unreal nature that it is in its principle and its working the contrary of the spiritual life. The spiritual life, it works for diversity in oneness and for perfection in that diversity. Morality is not divine or of the divine. It is of man and human. The moral notion goes so far as to say that there are good desires and there are bad desires and calls on you to accept the one and reject the other. But the spiritual life demands that you should reject desire altogether. Its law is that you must cast aside all movements that draw you away from the divine. You must reject them, not because they are bad in themselves, for they may be good for another man or in another sphere, but because they belong to the impulses or forces that, being unillumined and ignorant, stand in the way of your approach to the divine. Desire itself arises from an unillumined vital being and its ignorance. There is one more page, but it'll become very long.
It was so beautiful. The whole 1 hour can go in discussing,
I didn't know about morality,
Mm.
means about religion and spirituality. The simple difference, which is the most important. I didn't know that we had these mental constructions, but I learned it today, thanks to the Friday Circle, because I thought today when Monica comes, she will target me because last time I didn't speak. I prepared.
But this thing that they don't come from us, like this point mother makes it in all these things. Like if you talk about desires, you talk about anger, you talk about all the, kind of the lower forces, lower things that come through us. She always says that because they don't come from you and yet you are made to believe they do. That is the reason why you just lash out and go crazy. But like I was reading it the other day, that if you can just take 1 minute, like before just reacting, because that's what we do, right? We just lash out. So if you can just take out 1 minute and tell yourself, it's not from within me, something outside is like making this happen, then your reaction or total silence, whatever you choose to do, would be totally different, of a different nature and quality. Yeah, so this thing I think one has to remember all the time about it's not coming from within, because then we are ready to just fight for it and go crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that it is of the same nature and the same behavior in everybody. But
Yeah.
we think ours is unique. I am reacting only like this.
It's funny that you brought this up. I'll just share something really quickly. 1 second, share screen. Can you see this? I don't know. 1 second. So sorry. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
It is half. Yeah, it's come.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, what you were just saying, I also, this is from Mother's, it's in Mother's Voice on YouTube, like what she spoke on surrender. Should I make it bigger or is this okay?
No, we can see.
So, again, what stuck, I didn't write the whole thing down, but what you just said, that it's same in everybody. It's so odd that, we are all in the same kind of, I don't know what to call it,
Same
mud.
boat.
Yeah, so it's like you just see this. You see in the present condition of the world, circumstances are always difficult. This is mother saying, I don't know how many years back, and still anybody who would read this would be like, yes, yes, totally, right? Like, and all the sentences in that talk were like that not a single person would disagree. Like, moving on, the whole world is in a condition of strife, conflict between the forces of truth and light. What better time for this to fit than right now, right? Like what's happening these days throughout the world, wanting to manifest, and the opposition of all that doesn't want to change, which represents in the past what is fixed, hard, and refuses to go. Naturally, each individual feels his own difficulty and is faced by the same obstacle. Again, see, each and every sentence is like anybody. It's just shocking how what she says is like, for everyone. Sorry, you were sharing, but I just had to share this because it's,
Yeah.
yeah, coming back to you again, if you could just elaborate on what what you were reading, what stuck out to you, or anything else you would want to specifically point out. Even the first sentence was very beautiful, if you can repeat that.
Right in the beginning,
Yeah.
the one in which I said you surrender and merge in it,
Yeah.
and your surrender enlarges and glorifies you, or you revolt, and all your possibilities are destroyed, and your powers ebb away and are drawn from you into that which you oppose.
Again, we have this notion that once we surrender, that will be the end of it, right? And here, what was so beautifully brought out was you will actually be expanded. Like it would be the reverse of what you have been fearing. So that also, like,
True journey starts only after that, no? Actually, only after that. Till that time, yeah, it is all we will think, but it won't be, yeah. And also about morality, also, till you find your inner truth, that morality is, I mean, applicable, I think so, actually. Not to, I mean, what to say, not to behave in a very haphazard manner, no, actually. So
Uh,
till you find your inner truth, and if the thing you are doing is not, I mean, it's not going with your inner truth, you can really revolt against it. But till that time, you have to be very careful in that. Yeah.
Actually, there is a very fine line between
Mm.
morality and
Mm.
discipline.
Mm.
Mother says you should be disciplined, but morality takes on a totally different platform where it hedges towards a particular religion or a particular school of thought where it tries to make everybody a clone of each other.
Right.
You know, Yola, you belong to this sect. You belong to this sect, so you behave in this way. So it is restrictive.
Mm. Yeah.
It is not oneness in diversity. And she's so profound that I was just foxed. There is a little more in it. There are about half a page. Should I read it?
yeah, I think unless anybody else wants to share right away, you can please, yeah, you please read it.
Let us take an illustration of the difference between the moral and the spiritual view of things. The ordinary social notions distinguish between two classes of men, the generous and the avaricious. the avaricious man is despised and blamed, while the generous man is considered unselfish and useful to society and praised for his virtue. But to the spiritual vision, they both stand on the same level. The generosity of the one, the avarice of the other are deformations of the higher truth, a greater divine power. There is a power, a divine movement that spreads, diffuses, throws out freely forces and things and whatever else it possesses on all levels of nature, from the most material to the most spiritual plane. Behind the generous man and his generosity is a soul type that expresses this movement. And he is a power for diffusion and for wide distribution. On the other hand, there is another power, another divine movement that collects and amasses, and it gathers and accumulates and things and all possible possessions, whether of the lower or of the higher planes. Both needed, both are important, both needed in the entire plan. The movement that stores up and concentrates it is no less needed than the movement that spreads and diffuses. But when they are not surrendered, both are alike moved by impulses of ignorance. Both are driven by forces obscure to their own consciousness. Thus, all your impulses of generosity are nothing in the values of the spirit, for they come from the ego and ignorant desire. A man of amassing and hoarding, full of a quiet and concentrated determination in the work assigned to him by his own nature, who once awakened, would make a very good instrument of the divine. But ordinarily, the avaricious man acts from ego and desire like his opposite. Both will have to purify themselves and change before they can make contact with something higher that is behind them and express it in a way to which they are called by their nature. Mental and vital distortion of things that have a greater spiritual value. It is a wrong movement that creates distortion or the caricature. Once this false impulsion is mastered, the right attitude taken, the right movement found, all reveal their divine values. All are justified by the truth that is in them, all equally important, equally needed, different but indispensable instruments of divine manifestation. This was again a revelation to me. I used to always think the ones who are givers are far above the ones who are hoarders. But we all are on the same plane.
Yeah, Mother says this quite often that, we think that the people who are, say, working for NGOs or are activists, who claim to be opening orphanages and stuff, that they are higher or they feel they are, they are doing something more, kind of divine in nature. But everything, basically revolves around the center from which it's coming from. Like if it's offered to the divine and it's through the divine in you, like through you, otherwise where divine is everywhere, like what in you says that, oh, I will do that, right? I am feeding or clothing those 100 people. That again is just ego and nothing else. Like she says it like very strongly.
Yeah, also that expectation will come, no? Even for, I mean, those who are donating, and a sort of expectation will build up in them actually. Automatically, it will reflect in that person who are getting it. Yeah, that inferiority will be that, here that superiority, no? Always, yeah.
And when Jyotna Di was sharing, it was, like again, the prayers that we read, like, again, like she talks about the divine law all the time, right? Like how it felt that, like, say, generosity or morality is the human law, whatever the societal
Yeah,
law,
correct.
but it has its limits, right? And it's once you cross a certain stage,
Yeah,
you don't have to follow
true.
like anything, and there's a different law that,
Yeah.
like, how free we can be and how free she's asking us to be, and yet we try to fit into definitions, like you were saying, that products, say, of a factory.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josna ji, for sharing. And yeah, with
Yes,
Nandini is
Monica.
there. Nandini, if she may share something. Nandini is there.
yeah, Nandini is there.
Yeah.
It she had to she was she sharing something? I
Uh, she used to share. Yeah.
No, no, I'm here only.
Okay.
I'm yeah. I'm here only.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to share something? Yeah. You can.
Not
Yeah.
not today, Chitraji. My
Okay.
husband has just been positive. So
Yeah.
bit of work
Okay.
is going on. Yeah. So I'm just listening today. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So anyone else who would want to go next? Anything you have studied from any master or mystic? Anything that you resonated with? You felt it was. Ritu, you have unmuted. Would you want to go next?
Yeah, yeah. So the word positive has become so negative.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, when Nandini ji said my husband is positive, so it felt it's a good thing. But then on a second thought, it was a bad thing.
Yeah, that's funny.
So what Jyotsna ji was sharing was beautiful. I could relate to some of it because I'm not very regular, or in fact, I haven't read much of Sri Aurobindo's or Mother's work. But what you shared just now, just I came up with an example which I read somewhere um, about generosity. So there's a story, a short one. There's a sadhu, and he is always into dhyan. He's um, working very hard in the spiritual area, and he's always concentrating and following what his guru says. So once somebody, a big businessman came and he donates him 25 rupees to him. So this is like in the 1920s. So 25 rupees was a big amount at that time. So he thought that, okay, I don't need that 25 rupees for myself. So let me go and give food to 50 sadhus for this much amount of work. And then he thought, okay, they already get free food, so let me buy them some steel bowls wherein they can collect food with them. So he keeps thinking about how to use those 25 rupees. So on one hand, he was just sitting and doing his concentration and meditation and dhyan and all. And with those 25 rupees, now he's all worked up in his mind, kya karen, kya karen, kya karen. So he goes to his guru, and his guru tells him, okay, see, you sit and you do all your dhyan on the banks of river Ganges. So just do one thing, tie this 25 rupees onto a stone and then throw it in the river only. So he is like, why should I do that? Because it's 25 rupees. It's a huge amount at that time. But then because his guru said that, he does that. So it's like, he was wanting to do generosity, be generous. But then at the same time, that money was kind of taking away his mental peace. So by doing what his guru said, he was again able to concentrate on what he was actually doing. And at the same time, it increased in him because he had followed what his guru said. So just a small example about, I mean, sometimes we want to be doing generosity, but at the same time, our mind gets into other things of ego and being a doer and things like these.
That was a beautiful story you shared. Totally fits into this because it's so, I don't know, it's a fact that going down, like, is a slippery slope, right? Like, you 1 second and you are down, right? Like, I had shared once in a harmony circle as well that I was living outside for a time, and there tipping is a very big thing. But like because I'm from India, they used to, kind of avoid kind of serving me because Indians are supposed to be bad tippers. But I wanted to tip well, and every time I would tip extra, I would be looking at the waiter's face that I hope, kind like he notices that, see, I did tip 20%, or, I am Indian and yet I tip, or, he should feel sorry that he didn't serve me, kind of a thing, like a small 2-minute thing, but the whole cycle, like now when I think about it, it feels like, why didn't you have a life then, right? But at that time, it was so subtle and so unnecessary. Like if I would not have tipped, it would have been simple, kind of, okay, I was expected not to, and I didn't. And yet, in trying to give, I saw those movements in me, which, yeah, so
Yeah, the same
Beautiful.
thing happens sometimes, when we are on the street driving and the beggar comes up. So usually if people would give 10 rupees, if we give 100 rupees, so we look at the face of the beggar and see, okay, he should
yeah.
acknowledge. Yeah.
Who's the one begging? I am begging actually for that look of, acknowledgement, or see that person is so generous. Josna ji was saying something.
I'm saying so true, beautiful. That movement, those consecutive movements which Ritu said and you said, they just come so rapidly. And we have forgotten the giving part and the being humble part and the surrendering part. We are on a trip separately.
Yeah.
That's why Shirvindo emphasized in Synthesis of Yoga. It's a beautiful line, actually. I'll read that. No matter what the gift or to whom it is presented by us, there must be a consciousness in the act that we are presenting it to the one divine being in all beings. That must be there. Those who are in the path, we should really, even if we give to the maid also, I used to think like that. If we give something to them, automatically then expectation build up. How gratitude that maid is behaving towards us. but, but these lines always reminded me, no expectation. If you are giving, you give it, that's all. You don't think about it another time. Yeah. It's beautiful.
If we, like, whenever we see these movements in us, like, and we so often, like, one feels that, I am not even, I don't know what the word is, like, I don't know, I don't deserve the grace, I'm receiving. I don't, nobody knows what all is going on, right? It looks so calm and composed and simple when I present myself, but these inner movements. And yet, when mother says that the divine doesn't look at your mistakes or your stupidities, he's just looking at you, or I am just looking at your possibilities. It just changes the dimension, and it feels that, then there is hope. Otherwise, like, knowing myself truly, there should not be any hope for me if I go with that principle, right? Of right or wrong, or simple and humble and sincere. Because these movements, they are such tricksters, like, from where they enter, it's pretty amazing how grace works.
Very true. Yeah. There are so many personalities inside us. Correct. Yeah.
So Shraddha has shared on the chat window that why, as humans, are not able to look at each other's possibilities. Shraddha, would you want to first share your take on it? That why do you think you're not able to do that, and others can share their reflections, or would you just want to not talk today? Okay. So, Chitraji, would you want to go first? Would you want to comment on this? Anything?
I don't know. What is that? Again, you read?
Yeah, why as humans we are not able to look at each other's possibilities.
Yeah. Maybe it depends upon the personality we are having, no? My personality is always, I won't criticize anyone, actually. Maybe, I think so. It depends upon the personality. I'm not that of type, actually. I will see many positive things in any person, actually. But once maybe in close relations, no, when you don't know that, I mean, know that thing, it is their maybe because my husband used to tell me, you are seeing positive in other things, but seeing only negative things in me, yeah, that thing will come. Yeah, correct.
I think that relationship is such, you cannot use that as an example, because I think again this would be a very universal thing. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
just kidding, but yeah, Jyotsna ji, you have unmuted.
but yeah,
Please share.
Actually, mother says that if you truly want to understand, you have to learn to practice to go into the other person's aspect, go within him,
yeah.
practice.
Today she sent,
to-
no, Monica also sent. Yeah,
Monica
yeah,
sent it in the group, Taru, that you go to the other person's point of view, get into his way of thinking, and try to operate from that, and then things will open up and they will appear and give you the answers.
So what we are answering is how do we do it, right? Like what? But the
You have
question,
to practice it.
yeah, but she's asking that why are we not able to do it? So the answer is when you start practicing it, like you were saying, that's your response, that you would be able to do it, right? That's probably, yeah.
But at the end of the footnote later in one of the books I read, mother says it's rather difficult. It begins um, uh, as a voluntary conscious practice, and then it becomes a habit, and then automatically you find that you see the possibilities in others as to why they behaved in a particular fashion. But on the flip side, mother also mentions that in few instances, when you get into a negative situation and you're not able to extricate from it, that is when your judgment, your ability to go back and look at it has to come. But that is the next stage. Initially, you have to try that. Why is Taru quiet today? Then you have to go into Taru's shoes. Now, whether you know the environment or not, we have to dive into that and practice that. Why did she react in a particular manner, and take it ahead from there? So the answer is no. She's written something.
So Shraddha is saying that I also feel that if I can forgive my own mistakes and grow through them, only then I can forgive others and let them progress, else not possible. So that's what she believes about see each other's possibility. So Shraddha, it's quite clear that you're talking about maybe one particular case here, but generally speaking, I mean, if we just look at where we are, right? So I think if this wasn't true, if we were not able to look at each other's possibility, we would not be holding the circle. We would not be here today, right? Like just the basis of it, we feel that it's a possibility for us to progress and shed light and like walking each other home kind of a thing. So but particular relationships, again you get into the dynamics, and I think especially at the beginning, just like you are saying, it's like there is no other, like mother says, everywhere you just see that everybody is holding a mirror, that whatever you are seeing in the other person is in you, maybe in a disguised or a veiled form. But you should, whenever something comes to you, you should connect to that thing within, that what is in me, that is seeing this, and where do I do this, so that the other is not there, he doesn't matter. But I get lighter, I see the light, or I progress on the path when I see that, okay, this is why I'm seeing this. So that's our first responsibility, that getting, ourselves a little bit light, or yeah. So anybody else who would have anything to share or comment on this? Any Swati, Shilpi, Devinder ji? So just on this, this time on Wednesday, we had a harmony circle, and it was about identities and how we just lash out, the things that we were discussing. So we had read a small thing from the sun. So I'll just read, just give me one second. Sorry, my battery. Yeah. So I'll just read it. It's page 63, attack by an adverse force, and it would fit into this a bit. So the most important thing to do when you are attacked by an adverse force is to say to yourself, yes, the force comes from outside and the attack is there. So this also corresponded to what Jyotsna ji was sharing in the beginning, that the forces usually come from outside. But there must certainly be a correspondence in my nature. Otherwise, it could not have attacked me. Like that is for sure, because we waste our lives blaming others, right? We waste our lives thinking that the situation, the circumstances, my relations were so tough on me that I wanted to do so much, but I couldn't. We don't come within, right? So that thing is here, that unless there was something correspondence in my nature, it could not have attacked me. Well, I am going to look and find within me what allows this force to come, and I'm going to send it back to transform it or put the light of consciousness upon it, so that it may be converted or drive it away, so that it does not remain inside me any longer. And she even goes further. She says there is a way about this. When the force comes, the adverse force, when it attacks, the part which corresponds rushes out to meet it. So there's a part within me that corresponds. It goes forward. When somebody says something bad to you, there's something that wants to, immediately go and say something bad to them. So it goes forward. A kind of meeting takes place. If at that time, instead of being altogether overwhelmed or taken by surprise and off your guard, you observe very closely what it was within you that vibrated. So she says it makes the sound tat, like tat, tat, tat. Another thing has entered. So if you are sensitive enough and attentive enough, you'll hear that sound when that meeting happens, and then you catch it. At that moment, you catch it and say, get out with your friends. I don't want you any longer. You send away the two together, the part that attracted and the thing it attracted. They are away and you are absolutely clear. So, I mean, there were a lot or more things like this. I really love this part. It's like, it has some passages, and the topic is other persons and forces. So it covers a lot of these things, but this one specifically, that it is actually this concrete that, between these forces, this meeting happen. I have the possibility of catching it and chewing it away. It really stuck to me. So I had shared it in the harmony circle and sharing it again because it came through. It's really, yeah, but okay, somebody has written something.
And also, Mother, how beautifully she pointed out, no, it is in you that You have that potential. That's why you are attracting that vibration. No, that is the main point, I think, catch point. Yeah. If we analyze like that, we won't blame others. No. Yeah, that brings a lot of peace inside, actually. Yeah.
So a lot of drama is avoided.
Lot of drama will be avoided. Yes.
And then you come in, right? It's just a simple, clean thing.
Mm,
And with others, we feel, I often hear myself say, like not say, but think that why can't they understand, right? Like,
Mm.
and it's a total mystery. I would never know why they can't understand. But I am a mystery that I can solve, right? I can, again, if I just focus that thing on myself, that
Yeah.
why can't I understand, then there is some hope for me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just, kinds, I just keep playing those blame games and
Yeah.
there's no end. Ritu,
Yeah.
you've unmuted. You want to say something?
Yeah. But Taru, isme there is something which comes to my mind sometimes. Sometimes it happens when you have to react. I mean, you can just let it go by not thinking about it. But then, although you will feel heavy by reacting, but that reaction is also important. Let's say you see somebody mistreating their parents or the elderly or somebody, I mean, any example. So one is, okay, let me just ignore it. How does it affect me? I should maintain my peace. I should not say anything. But then you're gonna be quiet for some time and you're gonna ignore it for some time. But then you have to sometimes feel heavy and go ahead and be into that uncomfortable situation of pointing it out or something, then situation becomes difficult whether to just stay light in your own circle and not disturb your peace of mind, or go into that trouble of trying to set things right, which you are seeing as is not okay.
And you have seen from your experience that when you try to set things right, they become right.
At least I've done what I felt like, na matlab, I tried.
But it leaves you heavy.
No, see, because if I'm saying something to the other person which I think is not right, then the fact that I'm kind of, pointing out something negative and that person might not like it, that makes me feel heavy, that I'm kind of disturbing the balance.
But according to you, it's not a balance in the first place. There was an imbalance, and actually, intervention would probably
Mm-hmm.
balance, right? So I
Yeah.
think you are at peace with everything, like talking, and at the end of it, and there's a balance. I don't see any issue in it. But the reason that I don't know, like the fact that you're bringing it up here, probably it's not as peaceful as you are saying it to be. Otherwise, it would not have been on your mind, and you would have, I don't know, not been sharing it here because, we all have our versions of truth. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel that I'm doing something with this, center of operation, that my thing is maybe sharing, or my thing is I'm just kind of, I don't know, I don't even realize that I'm doing something wrong, right? And it's a possibility that it's right from where I am, but it's from where you are seeing it. So I think giving that benefit of doubt, and instead of just lashing out, maybe discussing it more, like, kind of, okay, okay, this is what I see. Is that true? Or, if something can be done about it, and one would not feel that bad about it because it was at the same level. But I think it will have to be about the specific situation or something that, yeah, anybody else, like, yeah.
One thing struck me, like Ritu was saying, a particular situation arises. If you even decide that you could help by correction or by telling or by explaining, if you maintain a state of total equanimity, peace, connection from within with the divine, and it comes from that source, that you start speaking only what is said after a complete peace is achieved, that you're in total calm and serene state, and then you try to tell, then probably you will not feel heavy. You will just feel that you did it and the situation required it, and you moved away.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
Yeah.
But that is very rare, especially when we deal with our spouses. It is usually a power war. We can't help it. But I think with anybody other than the spouse, I think it is achievable. I'm experimenting with the spouse bit also, but the rest, it is possible. A complete, a kind of an equanimity and a calm. And then you go there, automatically your reaction reduces 75%.
Yeah.
And what you explain suddenly makes a lot of sense to even your own ears. This is
Yeah.
my experiment, my experience.
I think one thing important here is that this can only happen when it's not a reactive burst out issue. You see something happening, you feel that your intervening would be of some effect and it would be positive, so you think that okay, you have to say, and you go and you talk. Like, it's a discussion, it's not an accusation, because then the other person, then it just becomes ugly. And for me, like you just mentioned the spouses thing, so another funny thing that sometimes, it's like they say that whoever you believe in, if you can imagine that they are with you, they are sitting with you, and then you are doing the talking, then you would not say anything to hurt the person. I remember one clear incident that when I was fighting with my spouse, and there was like mother's picture right next to where he was standing, and I wanted to say something, and I just kept looking at her, and she was just smiling and smiling and smiling, but I had to say it. So I actually got up, I turned the picture, and I was like, you do this, you do this, and then I turned it back and I came back. So it was hilarious, but it was so enlightening for me that I couldn't say those things when I knew that she's there. Like when I was looking at him, I could see her as well. So if this is something one can do, just know that, my mother or whoever I believe in is right here. And then I'm having this conversation. What you would say would be really different than you if you let your horses loose.
Taru, there is something written from Mr. Devendra.
I think he has just, I don't know, I hope he has, I don't know, left or he'll be back. So let's wait for him to come, Devinder ji, who was here. So if he comes, we'll read it. And meanwhile, if there's anybody else who would want to share anything, if he doesn't come, we'll take it up in 2-3 minutes, so that if he wants to watch the recording. So should I take it up or should we wait for him? What do you suggest?
Wait for him so that.
While we are waiting, again from the same place, the other person and forces, I just share something else. So it's about, how when people, there are people who have, who say things which you don't agree with, how to react to that. So again, mother says that you should say to yourself, well, but perhaps I do the same thing without being aware of it. I would do better to look into myself first before criticizing him, so as to make sure that I am not doing the very same thing in a slightly different way. You will realize that in life, your relations with others are like a mirror which is presented to you so that you can see more easily and clearly the weaknesses you carry within you. In general, almost absolutely, that what shocks you in others is the very thing you carry in yourself. Take all the things which irritate you as a lesson for yourself in your life, and your life will be more peaceful and more effective as well. For a great percentage of your energy certainly goes to waste in that irritation you feel when you do not find in others the perfection that you would like to realize in yourself. For me, this was really kind of eye opening, although I've
I
heard.
think this is the whole journey. Whole journey. Yeah. Nothing else. Yes.
The reason why things upset us is that we don't see the perfection in others or situations, circumstances that we would like to realize in ourselves.
Yeah.
To realize what you have to do and do not concern yourself with what others do, because after all, it is not your business. All those around me, all the circumstances of my life, all the people near me are a mirror held up to me by the divine consciousness to show me the progress I must make. Everything that shows me means a work I have to do in myself. And perhaps if one carried true perfection in oneself, one would discover it more often in others. Like, if this isn't beautiful, what is? If you become perfect, you'll see perfection around you.
Taru, you're reading the Sunlit Path, no?
Yeah.
Huh? It is my Bible.
Okay.
Since 33 years, I go to bed reading it. Invariably, the last thing I read is this, and you get some gyan and you go to sleep with it. She's abbreviated her entire teachings into Sunlit Path. Amazing. It's the whole barn of our lives.
So I'll just read what Devinder ji had written. My mother taught me give back to the society. If I become spiritual or try to find inner peace, throwing all ideas of goodness of society as a discipline of some kind of spiritual leader or teacher, as ma'am told a story out of the mind, then how can I follow my mother's words? So basically, he feels that if he is following his mother's word to give back to the society, if he becomes spiritual, then he would not be able to give back to the society, right? That's what is he that's what he's saying. But what I couldn't understand it, that why is it mutually exclusive? Like, if you become spiritual, that is the best you can give to the society, right? Because there's, one less person who's in chaos and confusion, and you are peace and you are radiant. Chitra ji, did you want to say something?
Yeah, true. What you are telling is true. Yes, that's what I want to tell. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's it. That I think if he was there, it would have been much better. Maybe he can join us again next time. But that is the
So
best.
what he's trying to say is, I think it's the example which I gave, that as a disciple of some kind of spiritual leader. So in my example, it said that the spiritual leader told him to just go through that money. So what he's saying is that if he follows his mom's principles, he should be giving it to the society.
Okay. But
So
then the issue was that in giving it, he was
building
losing
up
his.
ego. Yeah, I mean, he had that thought of giving. Yes, I am giving.
Yeah. And that was screwing with his head, that like affecting his head and his peace of mind. So if what we are doing, how say Rumi says, like, don't give from your own cup, right? Give from what's flowing. So if what we are doing, if it's actually not making us light, or rather, it's like a burden on our head, then there's no point in doing that because the center of operation would not be correct then. If it's done in heaviness, it will just bring heaviness.
I also think that we spoke about, the generous person and the hoarder. So we said that both belong to the same level. That may be a conflicting statement in most people's eyes, unless you're on a spiritual path where you understand that both come from the same source of desire and ego. So I think that also played. I think the individual being there to discuss it would have been better.
So, should we end this here? Should we? I mean, yeah, because usually it's for an hour, right? Like, that's what you plan for?
Yeah, depends on what the subject is. Tell Monica I talked.
Okay. She's recording. I'm sure she doesn't miss anything. You can give a personalized message to her as well if you want, right here in a recorded format. Okay. Thank you so much, Josna ji, Chitra ji, Ritu for joining. And Chitra ji, I also wore a suit in after getting inspired by you because you always look so beautiful in your sari.
How nice you're
Actually,
looking good today.
actually, I missed you a lot. Actually, so far you are not there, no, in prayers and meditation, Savitri. Yeah?
No,
Okay.
she's not there. I asked Monica.
Yeah.
She's missing.
Good. Yeah, good. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, beautiful piece.
Jasmine colors.
Jasmine colors only, Chitra.
Okay, okay.
My daughter created the email and I don't know anything. No, okay. This all grace, really.
Yeah.
She created the mail ID like because I like the flowers, no? That jasmine flowers I like.
Actually, your name is of a flower only, and you love flowers. Grace flows through flowers.
That's why she created that ID,
Yeah,
Jasmine.
yeah. Nice.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you then.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.